Hey, Gary's Gulch, welcome back. So today we're talking about episode 3 in our 3-part series about the phases of your financial life. So first was growth, then income, and now legacy. And so what is a legacy? What is important about legacy? But before we go there, let me give you a quick reminder about upcoming events so maybe we can connect up and get together. So had an amazing event out in Cape Coral, Florida last weekend, going to the change of command of a good friend of mine, Doug. And I'll tell you, I left there just really emboldened and comfortable with the leadership that we have in the U.S. military, as well as the continued technical capabilities and strength of our forces, both in the submarine force, but just strategically across America. It was really, really inspiring. All the crazy fear-mongering that you hear about Russia and their hypersonic missile, don't worry, America's got it well in hand. We don't need to be going crazy about World War III killing everybody in America. We just need to continue to work on maintaining peace, showing our strength in America, and telling all the liberals that are going after Pete Hegseth and actually the Rhino Republicans who want to keep that gravy train of money, because war is certainly lucrative. They want to keep that money rolling, so they want to be fighting a war somewhere, anywhere that they can, certainly in Ukraine and in Israel, and wherever they can find a place to spend money on defense and to line their pockets and those of their friends. So Pete Hegseth, great American. Donald Trump, great American. And many of the people who are serving honorably in our military are wonderful people. So thanks so much for what you did and for putting on such an incredible like-minded friend event this weekend. So coming up here in early May, I will be down in Orlando, and then again in late May, I'll be down in Orlando, early June timeframe. And then in July, it's out to the Midwest. I'll be in Chicago, Southern Illinois, and kind of traveling around there. Again, great event down in Memphis and Little Rock area. I am very bullish on the organization that I have managing my properties there. Reach out to me if you want to hear more, and I will have them on my podcast here coming up in the not too distant future. So let's go back to legacy. So the big takeaway, the big gift that I want you to get from this is to understand that this isn't hard, and that relevance comes. So relevance, like your life having had meaning when you're at the end looking back, that comes from your ability during your time on this earth to make an impact, to leave ideas and attitudes and action inside those that come after you, whether it's your own kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, or it's just your neighbor or somebody that you've made an impression on who has picked up the torch, taken over the baton from you, and is moving on towards human progress on this planet to make this place better, to make it more enjoyable, more inspiring, and less evil out there. So that's what legacy is. How do we ensure legacy after we've passed on? Well, that comes from setting up a structure where you can kind of control things in the future from the grave, which is all what the Rockefeller Trust or the Irrevocable Legacy Trust is all about. A lot of times people just think of that trust as being something that will enable you to get things out of your estate so that you don't have to pay an estate tax. That's really not a problem for most Americans. That limit is roughly $25 million here in 2025 as a couple. So not too many of us have to worry about that. But regardless of your net worth, that structure is something that will last for decades, and decades, hundreds of years actually. Irrevocable trusts have the ability to go from 100 to more than 500 years. But they have to be set up thoughtfully, obviously, because 500 years from now, the world's going to be a lot different place. In fact, life is going to be different, and we'll probably be on Mars and all different places like that. So it's not something that you can just do thoughtlessly. It needs to be somewhat adaptable, and it needs to be controlled by individuals that you can trust. So just some quick ideas. I mean, what I have personally done is that my irrevocable trust is set up so that 2 family members and 1 non-family member technical expert. So that's either an attorney, a CPA, a banker, somebody who is recommended by the group to take on that next challenge. And so there are things in place that prevent people from kind of getting a clan together and voting themselves into personal profits and killing the trust into the future. But the idea is that this trust invests in things, it produces income, it stores its capital typically in family banks or overfunded whole life insurance policies on the beneficiaries. So me and my wife and our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids and people into the future. It could also be on trustees of the trust and things like that. But the idea is that it's for the benefit of whoever we've designated as the current and future beneficiaries, and so that it is accessible to them during their lifetime, but also is able to replenish the trust going forward so that the trust is sustainable. And so there are, exactly that. There are essentially three things that are important for a trust or really any financial entity for its survival. And one is growth. And so the money inside there should be used for growth of the trust. And it's also for personal growth of the beneficiaries, right? The whole point is that we can impart and continue to impart these important ideas on the individuals so that they grow with the right mindset and they continue to be productive members of a eternally free society and to help spread that freedom around the globe. So personal growth and then growth of the financial base of the foundation. And the next is sustainment. And so obviously that is about being able to sustain the businesses that are in the trust, but just being able to sustain the trust itself. So good governance, making sure that we have people in there who have the right mindset, who are out for the best interests of the trust and the future generations. And then financial sustainment, really, it's more important than growth. So growth is really more about personal growth of the individuals, the beneficiaries of the trust. Sustainment is really more about the trust. The trust doesn't have to get huge and become the Rockefeller Trust. It really just needs to sustain and be able to pay the bills and at least keep up, right? And so it's going to be used over time to fund the future of the beneficiaries and the future generations that follow them. And so it needs to make more than it has for its own personal expenses, but it doesn't have to get massive and large. And then the third thing is charity. We always want to have the ability to put a helping hand out to those who are less fortunate than us so that we can help them up. And hopefully we can do that in a method in which the beneficiaries are personally involved so they get some good feelings out of being able to be involved, but they also get perspective about what life is like around the globe. And we don't want to entitle people to become dependent on handouts. We want to help a group, help them get into a position to be able to help themselves, and then move on to the next group. Okay, so growth, sustainment, and charity. So how do you facilitate this lasting change? How does it get internalized? Well, again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, it's really about shared personal experiences with loved ones, friends, and others. It's what I experienced this past weekend. It's what I experienced at family reunions. And it's what individuals out there who have been leading generationally wealthy families successfully will tell you. They will say that it's important to get together once or twice a year and to enjoy and understand and talk about what has brought the family to where it is today. What did great-great-grandpa so-and-so do, not in just establishing this trust to be able to fund these future get-togethers, but also what did they do with the business? What was the mindset? Why did they become so successful? What did they do? How did they add so much value to the world that they were successful and were able to sustain a currency or funding source for this trust into the foreseeable future? And so how do you ensure that people get together and do these shared experiences? Well, that's where the money comes from. The money is not to make trust fund babies and to spoil the kids and make the rest of the world, frankly, hate them. It is so that we can go out and do good. And one of those things is sustainment of the concept and the ideals of these individuals who are the future beneficiaries. And so to be able to do that, we have to reinforce it. And reinforcing it means that people need to be in an environment and a mindset that they're ready to accept it. I think I've shared on this on podcasts before that I decided it was a good idea and economical to host a family event, a legacy event in my living room, right? And so the kids didn't want to participate. Why? Because there was no incentive for them. I didn't take them off to go skiing during the day and then around the campfire or around the fireplace in the evening or around a good meal or around a good movie. I didn't set up that environment so that they were open to, yeah, Dad wants to yap at us for a little bit. But that's okay because he took us to an amazing place that we picked out that we want to go to, and we're happy to, or we're okay at least, to sit in and see this happen. And as it keeps continuing on and on and on, and they see that their friends aren't able to do the same thing, they start to get their mind wrapped around that, and they will start to participate. So I'm going to bring on a dear friend and a client of mine soon to talk about what he's been doing with his family. He's ahead of me, frankly, a couple generations in here, and they're being amazingly successful. The kids are getting it, and they're out there doing the charity stuff. And so all of these things we've been talking about are things that I want to be able to reinforce with a case study. So what I want to close this out with is to get a little bit bigger picture and more conceptual. Wealth is what you leave to individuals. It's what you pass on as financial currency or resources that they can use in the future for both good and bad. Wealth is like gasoline. It can be used for good, transporting somebody to the hospital. It can be used for bad, putting in a Molotov cocktail and burning up a Tesla, or hate crimes. So wealth is the same thing. It is a resource that can be used for good and bad. How you ensure that it is used for good generations from now by people you've never met and will never meet is because you teach them the ideals, the concepts, what the family is about, and you continue to teach those future generations from the grave. And the way you do that is you set up a trust that has ideals and requirements, and it has teaching points and education, and then you have a receptive audience. And the way you get the receptive audience and the way that you actually leave a legacy, which is the ideas and thoughts and traditions that you leave inside the people, is that you have wealth that enables you, and you create a perpetual wealth in that the trust has ways to make money and to store money and policies on family members and enable them to have access to that money to start their businesses and to grow and to add value to others through charity. The way that you propagate this is that you have wealth that enables these close family experiential impactful events where their mind is open to absorb the lessons from the past, and that allows you to propagate it forward, and the kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids will be carrying the torch forward for you, funded by the wealth that you left to them in a structure called an irrevocable trust, and the legacy that you left to them, which are those ideas that need to be imparted in them in a manner in which they're open to accepting those ideas, those missions, and the goals of propagating this forward as a legacy, a financial wealth, and a spiritual legacy that you're leaving to the family, all controlled and contained within this irrevocable legacy trust. I do hope that has been helpful, and as far not just legacy, but all three phases, growth, income, and legacy, and then reflecting back on how they tie together with the three elements of wealth, which are cash flow, wealth, and protection. So cash flow, wealth, and protection played out throughout the phases of life, which aren't necessarily just in a straight line, but you will go through these phases of growth and then focusing on income and then legacy for those future generations. Thank you so much, and until next time, go make something amazing happen in Gary's Gulch.